Greetings, hello, and welcome to Equal First, the podcast about balancing self and service in life and love through career, connections, and courage. I'm Rob Farker, your humble host who hopes that by seeking out the connections and wisdom that I need in order to put folks equal first with myself, I can help you, my listeners, figure out how to step into life more fully. Now, one of the fun things about having done a podcast or two in the past is the opportunity to reconnect with folks I chatted with for prior shows. I first chatted with my guest for this episode, Jono Poon, for my freelance podcasting gig, Podcast Bay the Podcast. Jono is a specialist in digital leadership who helps people help other people online through courses, coaching and speaking events. At the time, Jono was the host of his own podcast, The Unspoken Truths of Digital Leadership. And although that show may be on the back burner for now, he's added the feathers of presidency of a Toastmasters Advanced Club and co-directorship of a man cave group offering mental health support for men to his cap. I'm keen to catch up with Jono about what he's been up to over the past couple of years, dig into the Jono Poon backstory some more, and find out what's in his to-do list, as well as touch on the usual equal first subjects of the lows we all find ourselves in from time to time, and the communities Jono has both been welcomed into and built around in. Jono Poon, welcome to Equal First.
Thank you, Rob, for a wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're most welcome. I'm trying to keep up with the reputation I seem to have set for myself with Podcast Bay the Podcast for the best intro, or so I've been told in podcasting. I can't quite make it, haven't quite yet figured out how to make it quite as fun as Podcast Bay did. That piratey theme really helped for it, but I'm sure I'll come up with something sooner or later. So, oh boy, it has been a fun past few years. I think I must have chatted with you back in 2021, I believe.
Yes.
So it's been about 3 years.
It has been a few years, isn't it?
Indeed. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about what got you into online entrepreneurship.
Well, firstly, it started when I graduated and I managed to have I suppose, equal interest in personal development and growth development. All because in growing up in an Asian family, the Asian prophecy, as we call it, is becoming a doctor, lawyer and accountant. Is one that I didn't quite fulfill. So I had to find ways to improve myself and become good enough according to my parents' approval and validation. And so I chased a lot about personal development early on in my years, but also I started to figure out that I was emotionally challenged. And what I mean by that is that I was always angry. Growing up, I was always the angry child. I was also the only child, so it made it even trickier for my parents because I'm just constantly backchatting or being angry for no reason whatsoever. And I always wondered, where did this come from? And it made me feel like I'm not a good friend to people around me. Even though I wasn't really expressing anger to them, I was always unhappy. So I wasn't a great friend to be around. And I feel sorry for my friends that did grow up with me, because they had to put up with me so much of my stuff that I accumulated. And I'm glad they are still around with me today. For those that did grow around me, they know what I'm talking about. I was a mess. I was I was always upset or always angry about something. I was always miserable, and it just didn't feel... I didn't have a great vibe to me, right? You wouldn't bring me out. You wouldn't want to bring me out anyway. And that course got me to the path where, after I graduated, I started to learn about personal development in the job that I got hired in. I was hired in to great mentors, to great directors who was also in the field of personal development and property. And at that time, they are great established entrepreneurs themselves, and I had the privilege to learn a lot about business from them. And also at that time, social media was about to boom. I was always been tech savvy, so having an IT background and also graduating in multimedia, in technology and social media, I was riding that wave as such. I was interviewed for a sales job, but I managed to sell myself into a marketing job. I have no idea how I did it, but the director was like, "You're not here for sales, you're here for marketing. Let's put you into a marketing role instead of a sales role." And from then on, I was just doing digital marketing for them. I was learning all the systems, email responders, email marketing, YouTube ads, paid ads for Google. I was learning all the technology of business at that time without me actually knowing. I was just like, oh, this is fun. This is technology. This is just problem solving. And I loved it. And I fell into the love of online marketing and online digital entrepreneurship, the freedom and flexibility it gives you, but also what you can create with systems. And they were starting to do video marketing as well. So they were recording it like half the time they were in office. They would be in the separate room just across the office, recording constantly, just churning out, publishing and creating content. And I'm just like, wow. And I'll always be dragged in to go like, oh, Jono, help film, help do the sound or do whatever. And just like, then once they like give me this bulk of content, I'd be the one editing it. So I was learning how to do video editing and all sorts of digital marketing work, graphic design, web development, building the landing pages. So I managed to get myself in a very nice role to learn from a lot of experts. They were also working with a lot of different mentors or different businesses that was also very established in their digital online field or business field. And I had the privilege to work and network with these people. And I got to learn the different mindset it takes, the resiliency that it takes to build a business, to run a business, but also to get punched in the face by life. When things aren't going well, you get punched, but it's how you navigate it. And it taught me a lot of different things that I didn't realize I needed. And that taught me things about how to be a leader in my field, how to be a leader in my own life, not just as a business owner, but also as a colleague, as a peer group, as a community leader, as a friend, as a partner. And it helped me establish my own values. What is it that I enjoy? What is it I love in life? And what is it that I want to do in life? It gave me that amazing, fascinating journey. And I would not trade anything for that at all, because it's given me so much perspective in life and being so grateful of the opportunities I get, the people I meet, people like yourselves. If it wasn't for this world, I wouldn't be able to connect with you and have the quality and conversations we had previously. So it's been a roller coaster, really.
It certainly sounds it. And I do have to ask a couple of things that you mentioned just then. You mentioned that you graduated. What was it that you actually... What were you studying? What did you graduate with?
So as graduate, the course itself was called Multimedia Technology and Design. And that was the time when Apple was launching. So we were using iMacs for our 3D rendering, audio editing, video editing, and that was the time when the first iPhone came out. So you can see where I was catching on to that technology wave already.
Indeed.
And I was already picking up on where the world was going to go with the future.
So it sounds like even then when you were studying, you were kind of defying your parents and the Asian prophecy a little bit. So it wasn't
Definitely didn't go through the doctor, lawyer, and accountant, but I did find something I loved, which was the technology side of the future, and also what we can create in the world of digital.
Absolutely. And did you ever wind up working out what the source of that anger that you had as a youngster was?
Yes, I was resentful to my parents for always leaving me behind when they were working. And because they were first generation immigrants, or at least to UK back in the 70s, I believe 60s or no, about 70s when they came over. I was born in about 87. So then about the mid 70s, 80s, they would be the ones working in takeaways, and that was their lifestyle. So when they had me in the 80s, late 80s / early 90s, I would be dropped off to my cousin's place to be looked after when they go to work. So a lot of the time I had no connection with my parents whatsoever. Their hours were usually 11. They would get to the takeaway for 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. for lunch. Then they'll be home from 2:30 to about 5. That's their rest time. So they'll just have a nap. So when I finish school at 3 p.m., I don't see them. I come home, they'll be asleep. I see them for 20 minutes first, half an hour between like 4:30 and 5 before they drop me off to work to my cousins. Then they get to work. Then they'll pick me up about 12 a.m. and I'll be asleep by then. So they'll just carry me into the car, take me home, drop me off. I'll wake up. I'll go to school. I'll walk to school by myself. So again, I didn't see them in the morning. And I had absolutely no love and connection with my parents other than, have you eaten yet? And that's how they show love. But I didn't understand that growing up. And of course, I created a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, but also the expectations they set me was like, you got to be a doctor, lawyer, and accountant. I hated studying as well. So English wasn't my first language, and I was speaking Cantonese when I was growing up in school, and I couldn't communicate with a lot of the students and the teachers. So therefore, I was picked on a lot, I was bullied a lot, there was a lot of racism as well in the 90s. That was the same time when Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan and Jet Li and stuff was on TV, with the mismatching dubbing or subtitles.
Oh, yes.
And that didn't help with racism and discrimination and stereotypes and things like that. But at that time, we didn't have those in the 90s, right? And so I didn't know how to navigate that world, other than me having no self-confidence, no self-worth, no value in myself whatsoever. And I had to find that. And that's when I managed to step into the realm of martial arts, because I was so inspired by Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li, and then everyone's like, "Oh, you must know martial arts because you're Chinese." I'm just like, you know what? Just because you say that, I'm gonna go study martial arts. And it was a point of that, but also at the same time, I had the opportunity to be going to Chinese school on Sundays, and at the same time, my older cousins who I grew up with was also at the point where they're like teenagers or older teenagers. So they were like, "Oh, let's go. We're gonna go martial arts, go kickboxing and kung fu. Do you want to come?" Me and my cousin that I grew up with, he was like, we were both like 13, 14, 15. So we were like, "Oh, we just got told to go Chinese school." So then our parents were like, "Okay, you know what? Just you make a choice. You either go to Chinese school or you go to martial arts. Pick one. You can't do both because they're both on Sunday. They both start at 10 a.m.
Oh, God.
You can't be at two places at the same time. So just pick one." And I was like, we were like, "Oh, okay." From that on, I was like, "Okay, let's do martial arts because that's what we enjoy."
Why not?
Although now thinking back now, I'm like, maybe I should have just studied Chinese instead because it's more useful. But I still love the point that martial arts has given me the discipline and also the self-confidence back growing up now to accumulate and push past my fears that I've had growing up. So again, there's never too late to learn a new language. So now I'm learning language Chinese again. But martial arts has given me a platform to self-express, but also to channel and regulate my own emotions. And also it gave me the perspective of how important health is.
There's a bunch of stuff there that I almost find myself thinking, God, I wish I'd done that when I was a youngster, but I think I had the sneaking suspicion I just would have been too damn miserable to make a fist of it. I seemed to go the opposite way emotionally from you. I mean, my folks were around, but somehow, I don't know, I had the issue that I just never felt like I fit in anywhere. So I was more sad and lonely as a youngster. I put a good front on it, but that was, I never, I was too scared to be angry at anybody, you know what I mean? I think I've always had this fear of getting in trouble, for God's sake, which I think slowly but surely I've been getting more successful at countering over the last couple of years. But martial arts, it's one of those things that has always been on my radar, not really so much as a defensive thing, although I know that having that assurance that I can handle myself should I wind up in a physical altercation, there's a lot of confidence to be had there, but just a lot of what you talked about, the health benefits and the both physical and mental. As you said, when life punches you in the face, it probably helps when you've actually had practice of being actually punched in the face a few times. After that, I mean, it seems like you had a powerful trajectory there. Were there any moments in your life where you were actually concerned about your future, or where it felt like, I mean, you've had a few pivots in your time, but where a pivot was necessary just to be able to... I can't think of a less dramatic way of saying it, even though it's not, I don't intend it to be so dramatic, but to keep living in a way, to keep your business going, to keep yourself going?
Yeah, so when I was in school, like I mentioned before, I wasn't academically enthusiast. I wasn't enjoying my studies. So in order to get into university, you had to have certain grades. And I was finishing school without certain grades. And so I was like, if I don't get into college or into A levels, as we call it on our side, with certain amount of grades, then we wouldn't be able to get into university. And if I didn't get into university, that means my head would be chopped off, because all my parents wanted and my grandma wanted was to see me with my graduation hat. That was the most important thing.
The good old mortarboard,
It didn't matter what subject it was. It was just wearing that hat on the day, taking photos of them, and be like, look how amazing my son is because he's graduated with a university degree. Meant nothing at all. But anyway, that was the point where I was really just afraid, because I was like, I wasn't getting the grades to get into college or A levels. Because I didn't really have 5 GCSEs, 5 A to C's GCSEs. I had 3, I think. But I managed to scrape myself into a college, and I managed to get myself into a national diploma for IT. And that's when I started, because I always had an interest in IT regardless, but it gave me that path and landed me the path of having the tech knowledge of the hardwares but also the softwares. And it came to programming, and also a lot of the building websites and technology. Again, that's when I was starting to build stuff already. I used to build websites off Notepad and just HTML typing. That's the good old days,
good old
right?
days, yes.
The time when you used to just customize your style sheets and the look and design of your thing. There's no drag and dropping back then. Layering was manual back then, and that's when I managed to get some solid grades in college, and then managed to get myself into university, which again, I was studying for computer science, was my first year. And after that first year, I was like, this is not the degree for me. I hate programming, and I do not want to do this for the next 40 to 50 years, or whatever it is. I just did not enjoy programming. And so there was that point where I was lost. I was like, oh, what do I do now? Because that was the course that was supposed to help me get my graduation at. And at that same time when technology was booming, at our university, luckily, they were investing in all the high-tech stuff, like the brand new laboratory for IMAX and filming and studios. They were investing in all of that equipment. And I was just like, oh, that seems interesting. Let's check that out and see what that entails. And so I managed to inquire about that course, which was multimedia technology and design. And I was grateful for meeting the teachers there, because they were all different, like, experts or subject leaders from different places. There were some were in 3D, some were in filming, in videos and filming and production. And then there was people in marketing who was teaching about branding and design. And you had all these different subject experts together teaching. And I was just like, this is a very interesting place, because I had already a techie geeky knowledge in IT myself. Just going to this realm of complete new place, and it actually just glue everything together. Made sense, and that's when I managed to get that degree, get that, that course, and then get the degree, and then wear the hat, and then graduate, and take some fancy pictures, and then please, and get a validation and approval from my parents and grandparents. So that was that, and that was when when you have to navigate through life, and you say the tough challenges. It's taught me how to navigate uncertainty. There's a lot of times when we're just not sure where life was taking us, and I think that's probably one of the moments where I was like really lost. And don't get me wrong, I still get lost now and then. To this day, there's still points where I'm just like, is this the right journey? It's like, who knows? Let's try it anyway and see what happens. But it's gave me the confidence to face my fears and face the uncertainty.
There does really seem to be an emphasis when people try and think about careers or where they're going in life, of what you just mentioned, that question of, is this the right journey for me? Like, there is some sort of ideal pathway out there somewhere that each of us ought to be following, and sometimes it makes us almost too hesitant, because we're worried that if we pick the wrong thing, we're going to screw our careers up somehow, or we're going to... I can think of the amount of times where I've considered a few entrepreneurial options, and my biggest fear has been, I am going to turn something into something that's, as thrilling and engaging as my day job was at the time. And so I would wind up talking myself out of trying things, because I just didn't feel like I believed in it. And it's only sort of like recently where I'm coming to realise, sometimes you've just got to try stuff and see, and it will probably wind up being more interesting to you than you think it's going to be.
Yeah, you just never know where it will take you. And my blueprint for life was very simple. It was get to university at 18, have a driving license by 17, and then graduate by 21, 22. I missed that mark. I was actually graduate at 23. Or 22, 23. And then get married and have kids apparently by 25. And then have my own house as well by 25 was on my blueprint list. And then be happily ever married after 30. Like, that was my blueprint. I was just like, that was what I was set out to do. But once I got to those ages and completely missing off those that blueprint, I was just like, well, that didn't go according to plan. Whose plan was it? That was the plan that my parents had in for me. It wasn't anything that I wanted at all. Once I reached those ages, I questioned myself. I was just like, is this what I really wanted? And it turns out, no, I didn't even want kids. Like, the whole, I don't have kids, and me and my partner did agree, we don't want kids. And that having kids thing came from our parents.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you have one boy, one girl. Perfect. settled. And then we're like, but what do we actually want it? And for me, I feel like for those that do have kids, great, it's amazing. For myself, I just don't feel like I have that capacity to manage parenting. It's just not the role that I know I'm not ready for. And some people are, that's great. Some people aren't, and it's cool. It's finding out what suits you. And for me right now, I value freedom too much. I love my flexibility and spontaneity, where I get to choose when to do things at my own time, according to my own diary. I don't want to be managing someone else, another kid in my diary. And
Yeah.
that is quite selfish, but again, it's knowing what you want and what fits you. And for me, it took me a very long while to challenge this belief, because if we wanted kids, we would have had them by now. We've been together for like 14 plus years now. And I did say to her, if we wanted kids, we would have had them by now, if we really wanted them. But to this point, when we don't have them, it's, that's what it means, that we just don't want them. And we have confirmed that we don't want them. And again, finding what fits for you and your partner, again, it's one that you have to challenge and converse and navigate that challenge together, challenging what your parents would say. For instance, I had a massive argument with my mum about it. Obviously, as you can see, what it means to be like having the only child is like all the expectations, everything falls to me, and it's just like, well, you know what? I don't want to push that onto my children if I was to have children. And it just got to that point where I was just like, I'm happy not having it. But then this is what life would give you, is challenges that you have to set for yourself. And it's like, is this what's going to make me happy? Or is this going to make me very emotionally challenged and upset? And that's one for everyone's personal journey to sit through. Everyone is different. Everyone's got different beliefs. Everyone's got different values. You've got to sit down and write down, is this what I value? Is this what I love? Is this what makes me happy? And I had to do that. A lot of that self-awareness work and root out a lot of those beliefs that's just been programmed within our brains when we were growing up. So it takes a lot of work, but at the end of the work is where it'll pay off for you. And again, everyone's different, so you've got to find out what makes you happy.
Indeed. And does that work ever stop, I wonder? I mean, are you still finding yourself even now just sitting down and revisiting where you're at and going, how much of what what I'm thinking at the moment is genuinely what I want?
The work never stops. Once you enter this world of self-reflection and self-awareness, the work never stops. You will constantly question yourself and second doubt yourself. Is this what I want? Is this where I want to go? And this is where it's important to have that focus and the vision as well. What is it you want to create in the world? And for me, it's always been about helping and inspiring others to become the best version of themselves, at the same time discovering their self-worth, enhancing their self-worth, finding their value, and finding their purpose in the world. And so some people, that sounds very wishy-washy. It's to help you become more happy in your life. But one that you really love.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of bravery to face the rejections you're going to get, the judgment you're going to get from people, and the freedom of expression of yourself, and a lot of conflicts. And that's where a lot of people, including myself at that time, did not express myself fully and did not set out this path. And that's why we don't get what we want half the time, because we're too afraid to ask for it.
Yeah. And we don't think we deserve it, and we don't think, from everything that we've been told, the world, our likelihood of getting it is low. Because, very few people have these conversations, at least up until recently. And maybe there is a bit of a filter bubble effect, but I've found myself liking podcasts like The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett a lot lately, and as much as it's a business podcast, he does really seem to ask his guests, who are of course mainly fairly successful, the tougher questions about, what drove them and what is still driving them, and how often they sit back and look at it. And there's a little bit of me that kind of wonders, especially with what you've told me about your history. I wonder how much of this, especially the not wanting kids bit, is an only child thing, because I'm an only kid myself. I married a lady who was 35 years my senior and through menopause, so she was, past childbearing age. And I am now approaching 50, and I'm kind of in that similar place as you are, where I know that being a dad has never been part of my makeup. And my family was... I had a grandmother and an aunt and a grandaunt and uncle here in Australia, but I was the only one in the family who was anywhere near my age. So, not only was I an only kid, but I was never... I was, within my own familial unit, I was never around kids my age. So, it's easy to say I missed out on a lot of experiences from that perspective, because I do know that having siblings would not necessarily be a guarantee of sanity, and the amount of folks with siblings who, at least when I was a kid in there, were saying, "Oh, you must be so lucky, that's so lucky being an only kid." From my perspective, at least, it's a bit tricky when I had all of the attention, for good or bad, and the report cards coming back saying, Rob's a bright kid, but he could do so much better if he only applied himself. But just never saw myself reflected in the school environment, or I made some mates, and some of them, thankfully, a few of them I still see on a regular basis. But it just seemed like that thing where we were kind of mates because we were in the same place for 7 hours a day. 10, 11, 12, well, more like 6 hours a day, actually. After we kind of went our separate ways after high school, then it was trickier to, harder to see each other on a regular basis. But one thing I did have to ask you about, you mentioned a little earlier on how you were in college and then you went to university. What is the difference between those two for people who tend to see the terms as interchangeable, especially if they're US listeners, and college basically is, university?
Yeah, there's a lot of mismatch in terms of terminology during studies. So college is one you go to when you're between like 16 and 18, or any age above. So it's literally for courses very specific courses. So a college for us is where we get to study things like certain subjects, things like mechanics, or sewing, or hairdressing, or beauty, or IT, or nowadays probably video editing, animation, or certain subjects and certain topics, maybe things like plumbing and all the hard skills that you get to be a craft in, or apprentice. So this is where you get to get early kind of work experience / early on insight in terms of what that industry looks like. It's very like how should I put it, targeted in like the area that you want. So like if you want to be in IT, you get this diploma, then you work in IT. So you can get a job after it as well with the college diploma. However, if you do want to step into university, you do need certain grades. So this helps become like that little platform to get a bridge between A levels for those that are good in academics, like science, English, maths. If you're great at that, fantastic. You could probably get into university or A levels and then university, no problem. But I didn't have the maths, English, and stuff like that, and then science. So I specifically focused myself in IT because I just loved the IT stuff, and I knew I would be more enjoyable to do that subject than I would be going English, maths, science, and or physics or whatever people do in those areas. Is not for me really. So it's finding out, that's what worked for me, and everyone's different. But yeah, again, everyone has to find out what is it you love doing. That's the most important question. Because if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to be focused in it. You're going to just divert. You're going to just fall off. You're going to just quit. You're going to just give up. More easier.
Yeah.
At least anyway for me.
It's a tough thing sometimes. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, people would like would use the phrase, put a rocket up you, or that kind of in that way of like trying to motivate, and in that sense of for want of a better phrase, I guess, punishment or negative consequences, which again just never seemed to work with me, because it's like, well, I was already miserable, and you can't really, they couldn't make me feel any worse than I already felt. I think, a couple of times, my dad sort of despaired. It's like, he would occasionally threaten me with stuff like getting rid of possessions that I had or whatever. And then I think he would then realise, it wouldn't work. There was nothing that he could do to me that would, I guess, hurt enough to get me going. My late wife would always sort of, why didn't your dad get any advice or get you any therapy? But then again, I think if you asked her 5 kids, then they would probably, some of them might say the same. Others might have just said, well, mum was mum. She was going to do her own thing. We didn't ask, we didn't expect her to do that kind of digging. But yeah, it was it's that weird thing when you have, from an external perspective, you have so much. I mean, I, being an only kid, was raised in, Sydney's North Shore, the upper end of Sydney's North Shore. So a lot of, my material needs and my basic health needs were never a problem. They were met. But, yeah, something else was just missing in my upbringing that, that made me, that didn't give me that confidence of like, whatever I try, it'll work out, it'll be all right. So I would back off things. But I think it's interesting. My situation at the moment, I am not in a bad way, but I know that I need to start doing things in order to make sure, as my future continues, that I have a future and that I have a secure future. And that's kind of giving me a little bit of that impetus. It's like, you know what, Rob, for God's sakes, you've done great. You've done pretty darn well so far. Just bloody try some stuff and see where it takes you, and take a few risks. You're in a space where you can. It's weird that sometimes you do need, it's not exactly a rock bottom, thank God, I will say, but at least it's a situation where you can go, okay, I need to do something so I don't wind up in a rock bottom. One thing I did want to ask you about, you talked a little earlier on about the encountering the mentors that you did when you were doing your IT course. Can you tell us a little bit more about those people? And are you still in touch with any of them? Are you still working with them at all, or where are they at in your life?
Well, the college tutors and stuff, and the people, the mentors and stuff that I got to study under, I'm no longer in touch with, because they've probably retired as well by now. But at the same time, going to your point as well about focusing on the future, that was one that I can never see myself or envisioned where it would lead me growing up. Like, we could always go, at this age we could do this or have this or do this, like, but then once I got to the age, I just never met those material things or those things that I thought I wanted. And we're so often so fixated on that future, at least for myself, is that we forget the moment of now. And we forget what do we enjoy as of today, as of what I'm doing now. And who knows? Maybe I won't wake up tomorrow. We never know. Maybe after this conversation I get hit by a bus. You just never know what life will bring you, right? Hopefully I won't, but touch wood. And and so saying that is, it could be a scary thought, but accepting where we are right now of life is like, have I done enough of what made me happy so far? If I look back now and be like, I've lived life, I've enjoyed a lot of stuff that I've done, and I'm proud of what I've achieved so far, although it's far from what I, again, still want to achieve. There's more of it. Yeah. There's always going to be more, right? There's always more. There's never enough. However, am I making a difference today? Am I going to inspire someone today? Am I going to be able to help someone today? Am I going to be able to make someone else's day a bit more perkier than it was before? Giving someone a compliment. That's one thing I'm trying to work on. You know, you look good today. You look great today. Your confidence is beaming. Where's your energy coming from? Right? Where's that smile coming from? Where does that drive come from? Like, this is things that we just we forget. We're so focused on the future or being, the past stuff. And I'm grateful for the past stuff because it's taught me it made me become the person I am today. All the past pain, all the racism, all the bullying, all the discipline, all the challenges, the bereavement, whatever it is, the loss, rejection, the redundancies, whatever it is, right? That could be painful in life. We just never know. It could be, for myself, it's losing friends or losing touch with people. And again, we grieve loss, but then we don't think about what growth has that taught me. Where was the lesson in that? What's the opposite of grief, of the loss? What was there to gain? From something that we lost, we always say gain things. We could be gaining more clarity about what we want in life, about who we want in our lives, the people we surround ourselves with. Maybe the people who's left us don't want to make that effort. Fine. I'll find someone else who wants to make the effort. Who will make that equal responsibility, that making that same respect, the level. If you want me in your life, you'll stay in contact. If you don't want me in life, you don't want to stay in contact. And again, people go, so busy with life. It's like, yeah, so busy with life, but then you always get what you focus on. If you want relationships, you want more connections, make time for them. Send a text, send a message, send a voice note, FaceTime. There's so many things that we have right now that we just take for granted. Yeah. We take for granted because back then, in the 80s, 90s, whatever, we had to write letters, right? Pen pal, do you remember pen pal? I was talking to this to my friend.
Yes, I do.
We had to write letters and we'd wait for like 2-3 weeks before we even get a letter back, a reply back. Nowadays, we send a text. It's like, cool.
Exactly. Yeah. Right?
Quick message.
Facebook DMs, all these little ways that we can,
And there's no excuse not to reach out. I mean, yes, I still struggle myself as well. I'm not saying I'm great and I'm, have great connections and great relationships with all my friends. It's like, we have our own time. But when we get together, we have a great time. The times when we don't get together, yes, it's hard to remember to send a text or, have a topic you want to talk about. And sometimes people just lose interest or lose, they have different priorities in life at that time.
Yeah.
However, if you start focusing on your own journey, you will find people who you be on a similar path. For instance, people on podcasts, people on leadership, people on public speaking, people on whatever it is they're doing, entrepreneurship, or things about mental well-being, or if you go on health, you start looking after your health, you start going to the gym, you start going to exercise classes, you'll meet people that will have the same value. Oh, wow, you're putting yourself first. Well done. Like, it's not easy to step into a gym or exercise class. For instance, I just recently took back up kickboxing after 25 years. going to the gym was like, oh, this is daunting. Every time I go, before I go to kickboxing, I have anxiety. Because I'm so fearful about what to expect. I'm not saying the class is scary, but my brain just goes into this world. It's like, oh, you're going to you don't know what to expect today. The class might be different. The coach might be different. It's like, it doesn't, but that's my head going, you need to be safe. You can just skip going to class today. You don't need to go. You could just go gym instead, or go for a walk. And
Yeah.
that's my brain trying to tell me, don't go for what you want, because you're not allowed to have it, or you don't deserve it. You don't deserve happiness. You don't deserve to have joy. You don't deserve to, get in a better shape. And this is all the stuff that's been programmed in my head that I'm now have to face and go, where does this all come from? Like the whole fear of public speaking. That was me. You mentioned Toastmasters. That helped me find my voice in terms of, who am I? Who is Jono? Where does this self-expression come from? And why am I been holding back all this time and not create what I'm creating and working on what I'm working on? And thank you to Toastmasters. It's helped me grow as a leader, grow as a human being, but become a better friend, a better listener, a better colleague, a better partner,
Yeah.
a better son, a better friend to everyone around me, a better someone to be around with, because I've understood what it takes to actually listen, but also to lead from helping others and just serve, like without expectations. Helping people get past the fear of public speaking is another level of thing. I've seen people that I helped now that try to do their first speech and just would stutter ums and ers and everything for like a minute before they even get a sentence out, because they're so afraid of speaking out in public to a group of unknown people. But it's such a safe environment that it's okay to make mistakes. That's what you're there for. You're there to learn, you're there to grow, you're there to navigate, you're there to find yourself. And that's the challenge of getting there. And I get so passionate about this because that's who I was. I was that shy kid that stepped in front of everyone and was like, my name is Jono and I'm here because I want to learn public speaking. Thank you. Like, I look back where I was started, and no exaggeration, that was how I started at Toastmasters for one of my introduction. And everyone just like, oh, welcome, Jono, you love it here. And my anxiety was flying through the roof. And the fears were in my head was like, oh my God, I'm going to be so judged. I'm going to be so rejected. I'm not going to fit in here. However, I managed to be within Toastmasters for like 8 years now, and I've worked my way from being just a member, someone who just wanted to learn public speaking, to becoming someone on the committee roles to help with marketing, or help serve the club in meetings, or help people with evaluations. And it gave me the confidence to become one of the area directors for, the club. And I was an area director during COVID, where I had to move 150 members from not physical environment to all online on Zoom. Like, that was the whole area. I had to get in a Zoom account or whatever it is to get everyone online, so we could still do meetings online virtually. But that opened up that, again, digital era that we talk about, right? This new digital world that we live in. Yes, it's important to have hybrid. And how many people have created new jobs or flexibility of working because of this new freedom of face-to-face / virtually, but also presentations, webinars, masterclasses. Like, all of these new things started to pop up because of the world of, because of this virtual world that we live in.
Yeah.
Virtual podcasts, video recordings, video podcasts, that's such a thing. That didn't used to be a thing, but everyone started to be like, oh, this is new. And then obviously it's such an essential skill as well when you're working in corporates. You can't get to a meeting that's across, 12 hours across the flight. Okay, let's jump on a Zoom call instead. Same thing. The pitch is the same. The offer's still the same. You're working together still the same. The only difference is you're not going to be able to see them and shake their hand physically, but that's a different story, right?
Well, the same story delivered in a slightly different way.
Yeah,
over a camera. Yeah,
that's a long way of answering your question.
No worries. Well, one thing I am curious about, I mean, you've kind of told us about where you came from and where you're at, especially currently through the lens of Toastmasters. Now, in our pre-interview chat, shifting a little bit toward the future, you told me that you and your longtime collaborator, Ik Lok, have got yourselves a new and interesting business venture that you're looking into.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been such advocates for, I suppose, connection is where our leadership training comes from. However, we are venturing into a bar, and people would say that's, hospitality or entertainment, but I would see it as a place for connection, where people get to relax, chill out, and just enjoy themselves, but also a place where they could develop more meaningful connections. And that's where you find new people, you find new sense of, I suppose, looking for something. Those people that are looking oftentimes at bars, they're looking for companionship, someone to speak to, someone to be heard, to listen from, or to listen to, or even, someone else telling you a story, or someone else listening to your story. And I see it as a place where people get to connect and also inspire new talent as well, because we're looking to bring in like live bands and people to come in and showcase themselves. And a way and a place where they could, again, put themselves out there, because we're so scared of putting ourselves out there. We miss out half the stuff we want in life because we are so afraid. And I want to create an environment where we're able to help that and facilitate that.
Yeah. And as I understand it, you're not just looking to open a bar, but you're looking to open a bar in another country, as if opening a bar wasn't challenging enough.
Yeah, opening a bar in a different country is a completely different ball game. But again, you navigate through life and you start thinking, what do I enjoy and what is it I love to do, and why that country, for instance. And it's no secret, I know, and I am looking to open a bar in Vietnam. For those that got connections, please feel free to get in touch and help me navigate this new journey. But the culture is amazing, the people are amazing, and I'd love to create something there because it's so different, but also it's a place where I could see the potential of the country growing and developing in where they are at. They're so hardworking, the people there, and this digital world and this new world of hybrid or physical world it's just gonna help them enhance more. The more we bring our knowledge and expertise from what we know to a different country, is able to help facilitate and help that, and help grow that as well.
One thing on that topic that I am somewhat curious about is the differences between nations, I guess, in pub culture. One of the things that my dad kind of lamented somewhat after we moved from England to Australia is that there wasn't really, at least it wasn't the same pub culture that he left behind. Because in the UK, as you're probably well aware, the pub is almost a community hub. And there is usually one probably, there's probably at least one within even a 500-meter radius. Every town has at least one pub, whereas after coming out here, you do have, more restaurants and more club. Club is a tricky word to use because nowadays when people say club, they tend to think more like nightclub, especially as it's a catchword of the R&B scene. But in Australia, we have sporting clubs that are based around particular teams, and what are called out here return servicemen's league clubs, which are large venues, and they're combinations of restaurants and bistros, and they'll usually have an auditorium so that they can have it's almost separate from just like a stage in the main area. They'll be proper separate auditoriums themselves, and but there is still this separation in Australia of a pub being a place where the local community goes and congregates and meets and talks. It's a little bit more of an effort and a bit more of a distance that you've got to go to get there, and there is not that, for want of a better phrase, there's not quite that coziness I think that British pubs tend to have. And perhaps the long sense of history, you can walk into a British pub and it's like, how many centuries has this building been here for crying out loud? And how many, and for all that time, it's pretty much served the same purpose. But is there? I mean, what's your experience of pub culture been? Not just in the UK, but also in Vietnam and elsewhere.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, the pub culture is very different, and over in Vietnam, where a lot of people that we've met, people like the expats, the digital nomads, and the local community, the local community probably wouldn't normally go to the bars where the digital nomads and expats would hang out, unless they're there to learn English. And I found this interesting because these are the people that are willing to put themselves out there into a new environment to make new friends. Because they want to study the language English, but they also want to improve themselves at the same time as well as making new friends, because sometimes they just don't want to make local friends because they have enough of them. Like a lot of their families and cousins and stuff is normally quite big, so to have more of them outside of family time is just makes a difference. But these are the people that are willing to grow, to develop, create new connections, and the ones that's going to get further because they're willing to expand their knowledge, but also they're expanding their network. These are people that can potentially help them, maybe get a new job, maybe help them with interview skills, maybe with communication skills, maybe even, different areas. You never know. You just never know what opportunities you could create and get from these people. And with that said, that's the kind of... so what we're looking to is to create a speak-easy lounge. Although it is a bar, it's more of a lounge environment where people, like you said, have communities come in and chill, wind down, but also meet new people. So like you said, it's like a community hub. That's what we're going to create. A lounge where people would come together from different walks of life and come and chill. We will probably start having different theme nights or different bands and different music, but also bring in different communities to help facilitate different experiences. Because when you're out there, you're in a new country, but you still sometimes miss the old companionship, the connections, the community feel, somewhere to fit in. have board game nights. You could have Jenga nights. You could have pub quizzes. I don't know. Like, you could have sports nights. You could have anime nights for those that want to talk about anime. I don't know, but like, in a community where you get to feel connected and belong. And I think when you're working out there in a different country by yourself, or a lot of the times the nomads or the expats are normally by themselves or maybe with family, is meeting new people. It's harder to meet new friends because you're in a country where the language is different and not everyone speaks English, and the people you probably meet from different countries, right? And that's the joy of being in a new environment, is you get yourself out of your comfort zone. You're like, oh, no one knows who I am now. I can start afresh. I think that's probably one of the best ways of changing your environment. Again, is one way of doing that. And because a lot of the times we're so stuck in our environments, we stay small or we play small because we're surrounding ourselves with people who we never really inspired us or uplifted us or encouraged us to step out or to grow and challenge ourselves more. However, when you put yourself in a new environment, you would definitely be out of your comfort zone, but now you're challenging yourself. You've got to beat you. You've got to learn to dance with you and by yourself and navigate this journey of life, because what's the worst that could happen? You don't get what you want? Cool. Yeah. No worries. Next.
Indeed. Yeah, it does really seem like most of the time what we're really fighting against is who we were yesterday. That's the only people we're trying to beat. Well, if you don't mind me getting a little bit existential, Jono, what do you want the closing days of your life to be like?
Closing days of my life would be... I think this quote is that I read somewhere. Probably I butchered it somewhere. However, it's something like, because of you, I didn't give up. And I think I would love someone to read that on my funeral day. If someone came to my funeral and just said to everyone that knew me in that place and said, you know what, I continued life because I didn't give up, and that's because of Jono. And I would love to have that recognition and some sort of validation and approval, even though I'm not there to witness it, but I would love to know that I would have made a difference in someone else's life during the time that I have been around. And that's just a little thing that I want for myself. I mean, I don't know whether I'm making a difference or not. I don't know whether I help someone or not. Some people may resonate with what I hit, what I talk about. Some people may not. However, you get to choose. You know, those that inspire you, those that you remember for, and I think that's what I would say would be my closing. I would love to obviously to have everyone that I love to be around, you know, from different countries. If they fly in from different countries, that'd be amazing, because it just shows how much difference I made or impact I made in someone's life. And I'd love for the people around me to see the impact that I'm trying to create and leave the world in a better place than I found it, because it was a very dark place. And it still is, but if we focus on what we always find what we're looking for. This Gary Vee mentioned this on the clip recently, and I reposted it. If you focus on negativity, you'll find negativity, but if you focus on the positives, you'll always find the positives. And again, this is one of those famous things, is you get what you focus on. If you look really hard for something, you'll find it. If you really find dishonesty in someone, you'll find it. But if you also want to find honesty in someone, you'll find it. You will always find what you're looking for. So instead of looking at the negatives, want to look at the positives. Not everyone is perfect. Everyone has a flaw. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has weaknesses. Not everyone is good at something. I have my own differences. I'm not good at some things, and maybe sometimes I'm too direct, is one thing that I've been told. It's like, oh, Jono, sometimes you could be too direct. You're just too straightforward or too blunt. Maybe you could just word it nicely. I'm just like, why? If they're not ready to hear what I've got to hear, they're not ready to hear what. But if they are ready, then they will hear what I've got to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be challenging because if I have to consider everyone's feelings, I would never be speaking my truth. I would be never speaking out the things I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes the only reason it does hurt is because it's somewhat true along those lines. And that's why you do get that niggle. That's why you do go, oh, someone just stabbed me, or feels like someone just stabbed me. Because it feels uncomfortable. It feels like I want to punch him in the face because it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, that's the feedback I get sometimes in the mental health support group that I've been helping to lead and facilitate. I had the honor to help these brave men. But there's also times where some of their shares, I know what we say sometimes, whatever we say in the cave stays in the cave. However, this one thing I always remember is goes, I remember Jono saying this, and at that time I really wanted to punch him because it was so true and resonated so hard that it triggered or angered me to have this emotional response. However, when I sat with it long enough before, and actually not punching Jono, thankfully, it led him to finding that peace. And I was just like, wow, that's beautiful. And that's amazing. And I love when people would say that, because there are times when I can be harsh, I can be direct, and I just be blunt. But at the same time, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your best friend. And that's one that everyone says. Your friend will tell you what looks good. But your best friend will tell you what it looks crap. That's terrible. Why are you wearing that? Like, if they're really honest and they're really your best friend, they wouldn't let you get away with it. All right? They want the best for you. And that's what I want for the people around me. You know, people that hears me, people that sees me, people that I get in contact with. I want them to be their best selves. Yeah. I want the best for them. Like, why not? And as harsh as whatever upbringing and things that says you cannot have or you don't deserve, whatever it is, I don't care about that. I care about what I want you to hear now is you do deserve it. You are validated. You are approved. You are enough. You are good enough. You can have what you want. But are you willing to go and get it?
Yeah. Well, Jono, on that note, if people want your help in going out and getting what they want, how can they connect up with you?
If they search for my name, Jono Poon, then you'll be able to find my website, you'll be able to find the Brick Lifestyle, you'll also find all my social media contacts, and if you don't, then I'm doing something wrong with my digital marketing. And yeah, feel free to connect with me. It'd be great to talk, be good to connect, and I'd love to hear, how I can support.
Fantastic. And of course, there'll be links in the show notes. And if you do happen to be watching this on YouTube, if it goes live for video, then I don't think I've ever done this before. Pointing down at the description. This is a new thing for me, actually. Assuming that there will be a YouTube description for this. So, Jono, thank you very much for your time and a good, solid chat. It's been wonderful catching up with you. And I am keen to see how your initiatives, including this, your speakeasy bar in Vietnam, go.
Yeah, and just the last thing I want to leave your audience with is that no matter how dark the tunnel is, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, even if you don't see it. And we are so focused on fighting our demons. Instead, learn to dance with them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
No worries.